The moment she pointed at me, my entire world stopped. I was halfway through standing up from the couch when my roommate stretched out his arm toward me and said 4 words that made the room go completely silent. "There he is." The woman beside him froze. Her eyes widened. One hand flew to her mouth as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. For a second, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. It felt as though the air itself had disappeared from the apartment. Before we begin, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that one act of compassion can change a life forever, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Ancient Truth. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. I stared at the woman, confused. She looked familiar. Not because I knew her. Because something deep inside me felt as if I should know her. The apartment was unusually warm that afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the windows and painted golden lines across the floor. I had spent the day applying for jobs and pretending not to worry about the overdue bills stacked on my desk. Life had not been kind lately. At 28, I felt as though I was already falling behind everyone else. My name was Callum Voss. 2 years earlier, I had lost my father to a sudden heart attack. 6 months later, my mother passed away after a battle with cancer. The grief hit me like a truck. I lost focus. I lost motivation. I eventually lost my job. By the time I managed to get back on my feet, most of my savings were gone. That was when my roommate, Terrian Holt, stepped in. Terrian wasn't just a roommate. He was the closest thing I had left to family. We had met in college and somehow survived every disaster life threw at us. When I couldn't afford rent, he covered my share. When depression convinced me to stay in bed for days, he dragged me outside. When I stopped believing in myself, he refused to stop believing in me. Still, there were things about Terrian that puzzled me. Every few months, he would disappear for a day or two without explanation. Whenever I asked where he went, he simply smiled and changed the subject. I assumed he had a secret girlfriend or some strange hobby. I never pushed. Everyone deserved privacy. That afternoon, he had texted me. "Stay home today. I need to show you something." I thought he was being dramatic. Turns out, he wasn't dramatic enough. Now he stood near the apartment entrance beside 2 women. One was the blonde woman pointing toward me. The other stood in a dark red dress, staring at me with tears already forming in her eyes. Neither of them looked angry. Neither looked dangerous. Yet somehow I felt more nervous than ever. The blonde woman slowly lowered her hand. Then she smiled. Not the smile of a stranger. The smile of someone who had finally found what she had been searching for. My heart started beating harder. I had no idea why. The woman in red looked like she was fighting back emotion. Her eyes never left mine. I searched my memory desperately. Nothing. No recognition. No explanation. Only confusion. Terrian walked forward. His expression was different than usual. Gentler. Almost emotional. Then he sat beside me. For several seconds he simply stared at the floor. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. He told me there was something about my parents I never knew. Something they had hidden for almost 30 years. Something they intended to reveal one day. But that day never came. My stomach tightened. I listened carefully. Terrian explained that several years before my birth, my parents had experienced a tragedy. A newborn daughter had disappeared from a hospital during a chaotic emergency evacuation caused by a fire. Authorities searched everywhere. The child was never found. My parents were devastated. Eventually they were told to move on. Years later, I was born. They loved me deeply. But according to Terrian, they never stopped searching for their missing child. Never. Not for a single year. I felt the room spinning. A missing daughter? A sister? I had never heard a word about any of this. Not once. Then Tyrion looked at the woman in red. She was crying openly now. And suddenly I understood. At least partly. The realization hit me like lightning. No. Impossible. Yet the resemblance was there. The eyes. The shape of the smile. The way she tilted her head. Tiny details that suddenly seemed obvious. Tyrion nodded. The woman in red was named Celine Arden. And according to recently verified records and DNA testing, she was my sister. The sister my parents had spent decades searching for. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. For 28 years, I believed I was alone. For 28 years, I thought everyone connected to my childhood was gone forever. Now a stranger stood in my living room carrying a piece of my family's lost history. A piece I never knew existed. The story that followed felt unbelievable. Celine had grown up in another state. She had been adopted through a complicated chain of events following the hospital evacuation. Nobody involved realized who she really was. Her adoptive family loved her. They raised her well. But shortly before her adoptive mother passed away, old documents surfaced. Questions emerged. Names appeared. The investigation began. Months later, the truth slowly came together. Unfortunately, by then our parents had already passed away. The reunion they had dreamed about their entire lives never happened. That part hurt most. I looked toward the window. For the first time in years, grief returned with fresh force. I imagined my parents searching. Hoping. Praying. Never giving up. And then leaving this world without seeing the answer they spent decades chasing. The thought shattered me. Celine sat across from me. Neither of us knew what to say. How do you greet someone who should have been part of your entire life? How do you bridge nearly 3 decades of lost time? The silence stretched. Then something unexpected happened. Celine pulled a photograph from her purse. It showed my parents. Older. Smiling. Standing outside a small diner. My hands trembled as I took it. I had never seen that picture before. Apparently they had met one of the investigators years earlier and shared photographs in hope someone might recognize their missing daughter. They never stopped looking. Not once. I stared at the image until tears blurred my vision. For so long I had believed loss was the final chapter of my family's story. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe this was another chapter entirely. The next several weeks changed everything. Celine visited often. Then daily. Then practically became part of the apartment. We shared stories. Photographs. Memories. Questions. Thousands of questions. She wanted to know what our parents were like. I wanted to know everything about her life. Slowly, the awkwardness faded. A connection began to grow. Not because we forced it. Because it had always been there. Waiting. There were difficult moments too. Years of separation cannot disappear overnight. Sometimes we felt guilty for all the missed birthdays. All the holidays. All the ordinary moments that should have belonged to us. Sometimes we wondered what life might have been if fate had made different choices. But eventually we realized something important. The past could not be changed. Only the future could. One afternoon, several months later, Celine asked to visit our parents' graves. The day was bright and peaceful. Birds drifted across a cloudless sky. The grass moved gently in the breeze. Together we stood before the headstones. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, Celine knelt down. Tears rolled down her face. Not dramatic tears. Quiet tears. The kind that come from years of hidden pain. The kind that carry both sadness and healing. I placed flowers beside her. Then I looked at the names engraved in stone. For the first time since losing them, I didn't feel completely alone. I felt connected. As though a broken circle had finally been closed. Later that day, as we walked away from the cemetery, Celine slipped her arm through mine. A simple gesture. Yet it carried the weight of 28 years. In that moment, I realized something my grief had hidden from me. Family is not measured only by the years spent together. Sometimes it is measured by the love that survives despite those lost years. And somehow, against impossible odds, that love had survived. Tarian eventually confessed how he became involved. One of the investigators had contacted him after discovering he was listed as my emergency contact. He spent months verifying information before telling me. He wanted certainty before giving me hope. That explained his mysterious disappearances. He wasn't hiding a secret girlfriend. He was helping reunite a family. I don't think I'll ever fully repay him for that. Some people save lives dramatically. Others save them quietly. Tarian belonged to the second group. His kindness changed everything. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and let us know where you're watching from. Stories like these remind us that hope can appear when we least expect it. Years have passed since that afternoon. The memory remains crystal clear. The warm apartment. The sunlight. The surprise on my face. The woman covering her mouth in disbelief. And my roommate pointing directly at me. At the time, I thought those 4 words would bring trouble. Instead, they brought a miracle. Today Celine and I celebrate holidays together. We share family traditions. We laugh about childhood stories we never experienced together but somehow still understand. And every year on our parents' birthdays, we visit them side by side. Not as strangers. Not as people connected by paperwork. As brother and sister. As family. Before we reach the ending, please write the word reunion in the comments if you believe family bonds can survive even the longest separations. Sometimes life takes things from us. Sometimes it leaves wounds that never fully disappear. But every once in a while, life gives something back. Not because we deserve it. Not because we expect it. Simply because hope has a strange way of finding its path. The day my roommate brought a woman home and pointed at me, I thought I was about to hear bad news. Instead, I received the greatest gift of my life. A sister. A family connection I thought was impossible. A reminder that even after unimaginable loss, beautiful things can still happen. And if there is one lesson I carry from that day, it is this: never assume the story is over simply because a chapter ends. Sometimes the most beautiful pages are still waiting to be written. And sometimes, when you least expect it, someone points across a room and says, "There he is," and your entire life changes forever. Thank you for spending these moments with us. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or reminded you of someone you love, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ancient Truth. May kindness, hope, and second chances always find their way into your life. The end.